Actually, that's not true.
Welcome into the opening line report, March 1st. It's Monday. Happy Monday morning out there. We got Teddy Covers, Drew Martin here talking NFL futures, guys, and we're going to hit the chat box. A lot of questions. Teddy, you were jumping the gun there, man. What's up?
Well, you were like, do you have anything promoted? I'm like, no, I had a lousy weekend, which I did. I went 0-3 yesterday, which was, yesterday was just a crappy day all around. I had to bury my father-in-law yesterday, and it was, and then to go 0-3, and yesterday was no good. But March college hoops has been, it's one of these track records that we built over a number of years, and those are the ones that I'm genuinely proud of. The NFL track record is real good long term. The March college hoops track record is pretty darn good long term as well. 102-70 over the last 5 years, and that includes last year where I was under 500 in March before the season got shut down. But of course, obviously, we didn't get into the meat of the conference tournaments or March Madness last year. But the March college hoops has been consistently good for a number of years. So I'm looking forward. And I've been in a good prior to yesterday, I was in an excellent form in college hoops as well. So I would expect that college basketball is something worthy of promoting, obviously, as the calendar turns to March. That's what we think of as March Madness. And that's the next big event is the the conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament coming up in the not too distant future.
Well said, Teddy, and apologies for your father-in-law, and the thoughts and prayers go out to you and your wife. And Teddy, we're talking here about futures, NFL futures, and hitting the chat box a lot. So anybody out there in terms of on Twitter or YouTube, WagerTalk YouTube, WagerTalk Twitter, at Teddy_covers on Twitter, at Drew Martin Bets on Twitter. Feel free to fire out any questions you got here. Talking NFL futures for the Super Bowl, Teddy, which we got, February 6th, 2022, SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. It's where the game's going to be played, and we're already talking about it here, Teddy. 11 months away, but we got odds up. That's one cool thing about the NFL and about sports betting's, growth here. We can put actionable bets down on NFL futures.
We sure can. That's a big piece of the puzzle. And again, NFL futures aren't necessarily the best way to attack the offseason NFL betting marketplace. I'm a big fan of the over-under win totals. All right, season win totals. That's something that's done very well for me over the years. You can find odds to win divisions. You can find odds to make the playoffs. You can find odds to win conferences. So while the odds to win the Super Bowl, and we're going to talk about that a fair bit on this show, because that's the lines that everybody knows and everyone can get. But when we're talking about various teams, there are definitely alternate ways to get involved with those teams that that will get you a profit, even if they don't win the Super Bowl next February. So the bet on teams are going to be bet on, whether it comes to a long shot Super Bowl wager, whether it comes to a less long shot winning the conference wager, or whether it's something as simple as winning the division and or making the playoffs and or an over on a win total. The teams that we highlight are teams that you can find to bet other ways besides just betting on them to win the Super Bowl.
Teddy, let's get into it. We got the Kansas City Chiefs to repeat as not to repeat as champions, excuse me, to go have one year in between being champions, losing the Super Bowl, obviously, this past year at plus 600 leading the way. We got the Green Bay Packers plus 900, Tampa Bay Buccaneers plus 1,000, guys, meaning, if you bet 100, you win 1,000. If they do win, that's 10-1. We got the Baltimore Ravens plus 1,200, along with the Buffalo Bills and LA Rams, all at plus 1,200 here. Teddy, that would be the top 6 teams plus 1,200 or less, with the Kansas City Chiefs leading the way at plus 600. Any of those teams kind of catch your eye here at your given prices?
Well, let's talk about the Chiefs right off the top, because obviously they've been to the Super Bowl in each of the last 2 years. They have the best quarterback that any of us has ever seen in Patrick Mahomes. They have a coach in Andy Reid who has gotten the Chiefs up and over their win total every single year that he's been in Kansas City. And we certainly expect the Chiefs to be in the mix next year for the Super Bowl, just like they were each of the last 2 years. When you're talking about Kansas City at 6-1, I say put that money right in your pocket. Don't get it out of your pocket. The price isn't right. The team off the Super Bowl loss, I mean, once in history, the team off the Super Bowl loss has come back and won, and that was the Patriots who managed to do it. But it doesn't happen very often, let's put it that way. And for all the success that the Chiefs have had, we've now seen game plans that are going to give Patrick Mahomes some trouble. And I would anticipate the opposing coaches are going to have a little bit, they're not, I don't know if they're going to shut down KC the way that they were shut down in the Super Bowl on a regular basis, but the Chiefs have enough holes on the offensive line, at the skill position weapons, defensively, have enough holes to fill that do give me some concerns about their ability to get back. So KC in this price range to me is a non-starter. All right. And then you talk about Green Bay at less than 10-1 and run those 6 teams again real quick.
Yeah, sure. So Kansas City plus 600, Green Bay plus 900, Tampa Bay Buccaneers plus 1,000, Baltimore Ravens, Buffalo Bills, and LA Rams all at plus 1,200.
So the only 2 of those that I'd be interested in any futures would be Buffalo and LA. Okay, when you start talking about 2 teams that are legitimately good enough to win the Super Bowl on paper right now. The quarterback play is there. Offensive line play is there for both teams. Defensively, both teams are there. Skill position talent is there for both teams. And you're getting them at both, that 12-1. 12-1 is not a huge score when it comes to futures. But when you have live teams prior to the season at 12-1, I would anticipate, the number one thing you need from a team that you're betting to win the Super Bowl is they got to make the playoffs. And when you look at Buffalo in that division, when you look at the Rams in that division, you say both these 2 teams, they're going to be in the mix come January. So those are the 2 teams that of that grouping would stand out to me. And the price range for both of them, again, it's not, you can shop around and find significant differentials at this time of the year. But those are 2 live teams. Buffalo and the Bills and the Rams are alive to make some noise in 2020. The Ravens, I don't know why I'm just not in love with this Baltimore team, but I'm not. The Packers have been real good each of the last 2 years and haven't been good enough to make the Super Bowl. I wouldn't look at Green Bay to be better this year than they've been the last 2 years. And the last team that you mentioned on that list was
what was the Rams? We already talked about them.
Yeah.
But Teddy, yeah. I got a question in terms of the Rams, and guys, obviously off-season kind of changes here are going to affect the prices big time, especially when it's the quarterback position. How much do you put into, it being a first-year quarterback with this system? We just saw it with Tom Brady, but it's almost like, Tom Brady, I don't know if that's kind of the norm with a new quarterback coming in and having success right away. Is that a positive thing for you, a negative thing, Teddy?
The Rams have upgraded their quarterback position. All right. And when you look at what was wrong with the Rams in recent years, why didn't they win the Super Bowl last year or the year before? And why'd they lose the Super Bowl when they got there 3 years ago against New England? It's all the same problem. Jared Goff. It wasn't, you can make an argument that, McVay got too fancy with his play calling and all that. But the bottom line is it was, the quarterback play just wasn't good enough. Stafford may not have been a winner in the NFL, but he's tough and he makes throws. And in close games in the fourth quarter, you have a chance with Matthew Stafford that you just didn't have with Jared Goff. He's shown it many times over many seasons. So I think it's a big upgrade for the Rams, and that makes them very live.
Okay, and shout out to the chat box here, Magician470. Welcome in. Javi Cash, how you doing, buddy? And Tyrone Bird, welcome in as well. We got San Francisco 49ers, New Orleans Saints, Seattle Seahawks, Cleveland Browns up next, Teddy, as we start to get into the 20-1 range. We're seeing the 49ers plus 1,600, Saints plus 1,800, Seahawks plus 2,200, Cleveland Browns plus 2,500, along with the Dallas Cowboys 2,500. That's 25-1 here. Dallas Cowboys and Cleveland Browns. Teddy, any of those teams kind of catch your eye?
The Browns. I mean, of that grouping, the Browns is the team that has the most pieces in place to realistically make some noise. Seattle's got all kinds of issues, okay? Even if the Russell Wilson problem gets solved for the Seahawks, which I'm not convinced that it will, And I'm not convinced Wilson's going to be in a Seahawks uniform come September. And for a team that has all kinds of offensive line issues and all kinds of defensive issues. I mean, Seattle to me is not a team that I'm looking at as particularly live. The 49ers are interesting and an interesting choice. But again, it's not like Jimmy G has lived up to any of the hype, and Jimmy G has cost them more games than he's won them in recent years. I don't want a team with a QB that I don't trust. In Cleveland, and again, Mayfield was not a Super Bowl winning quarterback last year, and defensively, Cleveland had a whole lot of issues. But man, when you think about all the injuries that Browns team suffered, and again, for the season, they might have gone 11-5, but they were minus 11 in point differential. And the markets are going to go into 2021 and say, yeah, Cleveland was lucky last year. They weren't good. They were lucky. I don't buy that. And 25-1 for a team with as much talent as that squad has and as many top draft. Let's not forget how many years Cleveland was able to draft at the top of the draft in every round and building your talent base. That roster's loaded. Okay, it's flat out loaded. We like the coaching staff. There are things to like about Cleveland at 25-1. Again, the broader markets are not, they're going to look at Cleveland as overachievers last year. You can see it in all kinds of different statistical markers. And from talking to guys around town, there's a disrespect for Cleveland that still exists. And of course, whatever, the Browns win the Super Bowl is the same day the asteroid smashed into Earth. No, that'd be the Lions winning the Super Bowl. But you're not expecting Cleveland's been so bad for so long. But they're a live long shot in my opinion. And then again, we're not talking about a way long shot. You're talking about 25-1. The Browns are pretty freaking good.
Yeah, 25-1. That's what the Browns are sitting at here, guys, as we make our way down the NFL futures betting board. Teddy covers Drew Martin. If you're joining us on the WagerTalk YouTube, welcome in. Please smash the like button. Also, feel free to chime in the chat box, guys. If you got any questions, NFL futures, really any type of question works. Any type of betting question at all, Vegas question, lifestyle question, throw it out there. We'll try to get an answer for you. Try to pick more winners than losers. And shout out to Twitter as well if you're watching there. Welcome in as we move down. And also, reminder here, guys, both WagerTalk and sportsmemo.com, $9 Monday. So check out both websites. All plays discounted to just $9. We got the Indianapolis Colts up next, Teddy. Miami Dolphins, Tennessee Titans, and it looks like the LA Chargers and New England Patriots, Pittsburgh Steelers, all kind of priced at the same pricing here, Teddy. I'll just read them off real quick. We got the Colts plus 2,500. Miami Dolphins, 2,500, Tennessee Titans, 2,500, and then right at the 30-1, we got Chargers, Patriots, and Steelers, all priced at 30-1 to win the Super Bowl.
So it's really interesting to see the Colts, Dolphins, Titans, Chargers, all priced ahead of the Steelers, isn't it?
Wait, which team was that today?
The Steelers.
I don't know. I'm not a big Steelers guy.
I'm not either.
I don't think that they've got the quarterback situation figured out. I don't see them winning the Super Bowl. So
the markets are making it, the markets are telling us where Pittsburgh is. And I know that, again, they won the division again last year. At one point that season, they were undefeated 11-0.
Yeah,
but the markets are saying tap the brakes on the Steelers. And I agree with that assessment. I don't look at Pittsburgh. I see enough weaknesses for the Steelers. The offensive line really declined last year. That's an issue for them. I'm not convinced the secondary is as good as it's been. I'm not convinced the pass rush is as good as it's been. One of the biggest concerns about doing this show at this particular time, talking about the beginning of March, is that we haven't had free agency. We haven't had the meat of free agency yet. The draft is going to move the needle for the marketplace. The draft never moves the needle for me. But the draft always, someone gets, they got a great draft. They had a miserable draft. You go back and look a year later, 3 years later, 99% of the draft grades are wrong and nobody gets it right. And the GMs don't get it right. And the pundits don't get it right. And I don't get it right. The draft is fairly random. Free agency is not. And when you see a team has a holes X, Y, and Z, and then in free agency, they're able to fix those holes, plug those holes, you're going to upgrade that team. So we haven't had that yet. So we don't know the upgrades and downgrades that we want to make. What we have is the basis of last year's teams and what the moves we think they're going to make. The advantage that we have now is obviously the markets don't know what the moves are either. So if you find some of these quote unquote live long shots, you can get on board. And Indy's certainly one of those teams that stand out to me in that regard. The Colts dominant in the trenches last year, built for short-term success. And I understand that Carson Wentz doesn't excite people. He had a very rough year last year. I think he's going to be an upgrade over Phillip Rivers, working with a good coaching staff and a good offensive line. And Indy's one of those teams that there's not a ton of holes for the Colts on paper. I think they are live in that range. And the Dolphins are a team, again, I made a bunch of money with Miami last year. They might have been my favorite team in the NFL because, again, the statistical profile wasn't there. But you watch them and you read the quotes and you say, man, this is the Super Bowl caliber defense. And I thought they did have a Super Bowl caliber defense last year, and I would expect it to get better this year. Miami may be live. And the Titans are the third team of that group. And then again, Tennessee's been in the playoffs. They've won divisions. They've been, they were a game away from the Super Bowl, not this past year, but the year before at KC. So the track record is there for the Titans. And they're one of these teams. Again, they play in a smaller market. They don't have the marquee superstars. People don't love Tennessee. That team's a couple of defensive upgrades away from being a real contender. So all three of those, Colts, Dolphins, Titans, stand out to me. And I guess there are dumber bets to make than the Chargers too. But if I'm going to bet the Chargers, I bet the Chargers to win the division. That's the long shot I want for the Chargers. The Chiefs take a step back. We know how good the Chargers were and how many close games they lost a year ago. We know how good that defense is. We expect the new coaching staff to get more out of them than they got a year ago. But the Chargers to win the division might be the better way to attack LA. That's one that I haven't seen a price on it. I haven't been looking for a price for it. But as we're talking, that's when a lot of this is stream of consciousness. And I'm like, that's one I would look at. LA plus the point, not plus the point. LA at the plus price to win that the AFC West.
Yeah, I can see where you're going there, especially, all it would really take is, Kansas City. You don't hope injuries on anybody, but Patrick Mahomes go down, that changes things in the AFC West, Teddy. Another team here I thought was kind of interesting in the 30-1 range, New England Patriots. I mean, obviously, a down year, but the coaching staff's been there. Still a lot of the roster is used to success. Anything there, just quick pass on them.
No, the Patriots are definitely worth talking about because there appears to be a sentiment in the betting markets that the Patriots were, last year was a bad year, but they were better than the numbers, and that New England is just that the Belichick magic isn't gone forever. I agree with the sentiment that Belichick knows. Belichick's worth a game or two to a season win total just by himself. Okay. And the Patriots last year, I know they only finished minus 27 in point differential. That was a bad team that finished 7-9. When you look at New England on paper, there are holes everywhere. What's the unit of strength for the Patriots? They have no skill position talent, no quarterback, an offensive line that has no depth. The defense was what's that?
Maybe defense, and if I don't even know what they're doing with their quarterback position, but if all was healthy there, possibly.
There's a lot of holes for New England. And remember, when the Patriots were the marquee franchise of the NFL for the better part of 20 years, there were a couple of things that were consistent. Okay. They got production out of their draft and out of the top end of their draft. And they got production out of their signees, their trades and their free agent signees. Look at the Patriots' last 5 years, man. It's been one bad draft pick after the next, after the next, after the next. Guys that haven't produced, guys that haven't. I mean, it's not close to the level of production. The Patriots are great at getting all these 6-rounders and 8-rounders, the 7th-rounders and 5th-rounders and guys that contribute late in the draft. Not the last couple of years they haven't. So that's a mediocre roster on a good day. It's not a Super Bowl team. They're not 1 or 2 or 3 players away. I do not like the Patriots as a to bounce back strong for 2021.
Okay, and we got a couple questions here in the chat box, guys. We'll hit them in just a second. Just want to finish off these teams in the NFL futures betting talk. Teddy, not sure if you have the list in front of you, but is there anything kind of past 30-1 that you think is worth talking about here, or taking a home run type swing at the Denver Broncos, Atlanta Falcons, maybe. Heck, our Las Vegas Raiders. Anything there? Jacksonville Jaguars 100-1. Anything like that worth taking a look?
So again, to win a Super Bowl, no. Okay, no, not now.
Okay.
Maybe, and again, when you're talking about teams like the Jaguars or the Raiders or the New York Football Giants or any of these teams that that aren't sexy at all in the markets. The only way they're going to get sexy in a hurry is if they sign some big name free agent quarterback, which the majority of these teams aren't going to do. The Raiders aren't getting a free agent quarterback, the Giants, on and on down the line. So the odds that you see now aren't likely to tumble over the course of the next month or two. And when you start talking about getting a sense of what teams are doing in free agency, we'll have that a month from now. You better believe we will. We'll see. Have the Raiders, the Raiders have a defense that maybe make them live. The Giants have an offensive line that maybe makes them live. I mean, so on. You can find these, the Bears get a quarterback that and or an offensive line that makes a difference, and so on down the line. Minnesota, can they fill the defensive holes they had last year? So I'm really not looking for bottom feeders. I don't think Jacksonville is going to go from 1-15 to Urban Meyer's first year to a Super Bowl winner. But some of the franchises that have been pretty good, had a bad year the last couple of years, could be worth something in the futures market. And Minnesota, I mean, again, the one team that stands out to me is the Vikings in that regard. And I threw out some other names, but we trust Minnesota's coaching staff and we trust their front office pretty well, but you don't have to make those bets March 1st with the longer shots. Even a team like Arizona in that regard, then you say, hey, they were a 500 team last year. We like the quarterback. We expect, Kingsbury to make things better next year. Even with the teams that finished 500, let's say, you don't anticipate, because they're not going to get the big free agent marquee QB, the odds to shift dramatically, which means you can take your time, watch how they're doing in free agency, filling the holes that they have before the draft. And then prior to the draft, you can get down some wagers on these, and again, the draft's still 6 weeks away for the NFL. And yes, we will have plenty of draft talk here on the opening line report.
Oh yeah, draft talk will be had, guys. Draft something that's kind of really been fun for me, Teddy. And especially this past year, during the pandemic when it first shut down. I don't know, just having the draft up was something kind of fun. I remember, I fired away on it in terms of betting it, just more degenerate than anything. But it was a lot of fun. I think the draft is something that will grow in the next couple of years. But I guess
I'm sure from a betting standpoint. The last team I want to talk about, just because I'm looking at them right now, is Atlanta. Atlanta went 4-12, but they were only -18 in point differential. And you say that the point differential doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does.
In the markets, it matters a ton.
Yeah.
And they look at Atlanta and say, oh, well, they were just unlucky. And they collapsed down the stretch and they didn't have a coach and all of that. I don't buy that. All right. I'm not a huge point differential guy. And I think the markets overreact significantly at the end of the season. They say, well, they were only -18 in points. They were a decent team. Atlanta stunk last year, all right? And Matt Ryan wasn't a leader, and there was no one on defense that could get stops, and that hasn't changed. So I do not look at the Falcons as a bet-on team, as a Super Bowl contender, as a team that's just around the corner. Atlanta's not a live long shot that I'm looking at.
Okay, Teddy, let's hit the chat box a little bit. We got some good questions here on Jonathan in the chat box saying, Saints, worth a look since general perception is that Jameis will be worse than Breeze when he will actually be better, ? Anything here on the Saints, Teddy?
So I agree with the assessments that Jameis might be better than Breeze. I'm not convinced that Jameis gets the job.
Interesting, okay.
Are you convinced he gets the job over Taysom?
No, I'm not.
When Breeze got hurt last year,
yeah,
Winston stayed on the bench, and Taysom Hill came in the game,
yeah,
and started, and he wasn't as good as Winston. Okay, he flat out wasn't. They still won some games. The problem with the Saints is they've got a salary cap nightmare. It may be as bad as any team in the NFL. They're going to be jettisoning veterans in free agency, not signing veterans in free agency. And, I mean, there's a lot of pieces in place. And we're talking about a team, a perennial playoff team. They won 12 games last year. They won 12 games every year in recent seasons for the Saints. I think they I worry a lot about the salary cap issues because every year the last 3 or 4 years are like, let's kick the can down the road. Let's kick the can down the road and try to get one more run. And they made one more run, and each of the last 2 years with Breeze, they literally are like, let's do everything we can to get everyone we can around Breeze to do this. And it didn't pan out for them. And now they're going to pay the price for that. So I have a lot of concerns about the Saints and the salary cap and the QB position. And I'm not convinced New Orleans is going to be anywhere near as good next year as they've been in recent years.
He's Teddy Covers on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. I'm on Twitter at Drew Martin Betts. Guys, this is the opening line report each and every Monday, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific time. We're breaking down the NFL futures and answering questions on this show. Next show, likely a lot of college basketball talk as we get conference championship week really into gear. Las Vegas starting to blow up in terms of having the tournaments, Teddy. And then, March Madness right around the corner as well. So I'm guessing college basketball going to be a big part of the opening line report in the next couple weeks. And then like Teddy talked about, we're going to have draft talk, NBA talk as well. So come back and join us each and every Monday. Hitting the chat box here, guys, before we close it out. So feel free to throw in any questions in the chat. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to throw a question down in the comments below. We can answer it on next week's show as well. We got Hayden in here. Why bet anything but long shots at this point in terms of NFL futures, Teddy? I don't necessarily disagree with them.
Well, I don't disagree either. The only I don't do a lot with these bets. All right, I'm talking about them because there's interest in the odds to win the, and that's why at the top of the show I was like, there are other ways to bet these besides odds to win the Super Bowl, odds to win the conference, odds to win the division, season over under win totals, and I think the last two are better than the first two. Only one team's going to win the Super Bowl, 31 teams are going to lose. Only 2 teams are going to win the conferences, 30 teams are going to lose. But every team's going to go over or under their win total, and 8 teams are going to win their divisions. So you have more chances to pick a winner when it comes to those types of wagers. When it comes to putting money on a Super Bowl future, you better believe it. If I'm actually going to get to the betting window instead of sitting here talking about what I might do and the teams that appeal to me, at this time I would only be looking at the long shots. Agree with the assessment. That said, if there's a team that is priced, let's just say at 12-1 now, or 15-1 now, or 20-1 now, and they're like a player or two away from being priced at 5-1, and free agency hasn't started yet. Maybe that's and I don't know. There's a team that's going to get that kind of a move. Brady obviously last year is a one free agent signing who really moved the needle when it came to the future price, and I don't know. There's another one like him. There's no other one like him, but in this year's free agent market, there's not that type of QB that's going to move the needle and take a 60-1 shot, turn it to a 10-1 shot. But if you can anticipate one of these teams in the 10 to 20-1 range making a move or two that puts them down to 6-1 or 8-1, that's the one reason that you might want to get involved with a shorter long shot at this stage of the offseason.
Teddy, let me throw one out at you. Washington football team 66-1 to win the Super Bowl with that defensive front that they put on display. I guess they did get good quarterback play in the last game of the season, the guy from Old Dominion. But what if they got a top-notch quarterback, a top 10 quarterback? I could see them making a big move in the futures market. I
could, but I also look at that team and see enough weaknesses on the roster to say the QB might get Washington to be, a 9-7 team, instead of 7-9 last year. But in terms of them actually winning a Super Bowl, no, that franchise is a long way away.
Okay.
They really are.
What about we got CG fan here? Question. I'm not sure that I get this. See if you do. What team you think can get a wild card spot?
So we talk about winning the divisions versus making the playoffs. And you'll find different odds for the two. And a lot of times I'll look to win the divisions versus make the playoffs, which means that if I'm asking a team to make the playoffs, I'm asking them to basically make a wild card spot, as opposed to the bigger payday that you get when you're asking them to win the division. But again, You look at some of the lesser teams, teams that did not make the postseason last year, didn't necessarily come close, whether it's Chicago or Minnesota or Dallas or the Giants. Your Carolinas of the world could be live for a wild card spot. Your Arizona certainly stand out to me in that regard. A Raiders or a Chargers or even a Broncos could be a team in the mix for something like that. And then the Buffalo-Miami loser, the two good teams in the AFC East. One of those two teams will make a wild card. I would expect to be in the wild card next year. So, I mean, those are some teams that, that I guess I'm throwing out there, but I don't know how you're going to make money off that right now necessarily. I also want to talk, you said that next Monday we're going to be talking college hoops. And yeah, just so you know, the big tournament, the big dance, which starts, two and a half weeks from now or 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, Selection Sunday was 2 weeks from yesterday.
Yes. So the big dance will start 2.5 weeks from now. There are opportunities to make money in the big dance. The best betting opportunities will come the week before the big dance in the conference tournaments, where we get the number one seeds that don't care about being there or laying 11 points in games that they don't even want to play, where you find live dogs that are underdogs 4 days in a row and they're capable of winning all those games, where you have a marketplace that doesn't have an infinite amount of time to put up point spreads and react to them. Hundreds of games. Again, there'll be more games played on the Wednesday and Thursday and Friday of conference tournament week than there will be games played for the entire tournament. And the odds makers are putting up line, bing, boom, boom by rote. So we're going to focus a fair bit on the conference tournaments. That's going to be a profitable time. And I hope you'll join us for that, because it's an NFL opening line report. It's a show that we've been doing, but as I begin to March, we're going to talk some college hoops, and hopefully we'll give you guys some good information and good approaches for the conference tournament week.
Next Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Come back and join us for the opening line report. We got Tyrone Boyd asking, I bet $200 on Buffalo plus 500 to win the AFC Championship. Is that a good bet, Teddy?
The problem I have with that bet, and I like Buffalo. I like Buffalo to win. I think Buffalo's live to win the AFC, and you're getting a 5-1 on that wager. The only issue I have with it, I guess I got two issues with it. One is, I can't say for sure because I haven't shopped it, but I think you can find a better, if you're shopping around for Bill's odds, I think you can find a little bit better than 5-1 to win the AFC. But the broader issue is at this time of the year when you're locking, who's Buffalo going to sign that's going to make them more attractive? Because if you can get this same wager in 3 months or 4 months' time, there's zero reason to lock in your money now. And that's my biggest issue with the bet. I don't think it's a bet like it's a horribly negative expectation bet by any stretch. It's fine. I like the Bills. But I expect that line to be available come July, come August, and rather than lock up the money and not be able to reinvest it with your wagering, I'd rather wait, see if the Bills are maybe a little bit less sexy over the summer or something, and maybe you can find the same number or even a better number as we get closer to the season. So don't hate it, but I don't love it.
CGC fan is saying, which is a smarter bet, a straight or a two-team parlay? I'll answer this real quick, Teddy. Straight bets are the smarter bet from a, what's left to make the bet standpoint as a sports bettor. But in terms of entertainment, a two-team parlay can be fun. I would recommend doing correlated parlays. Like if you like the favorite and over and they're going to run tempo and control the tempo of the game, maybe try to parlay that together, depending on each matchup. But, over the long term, guys, if you're making 10,000 bets, it's better to do them straight. It will cost you a lot less money to do so. Teddy, do you want to comment on this?
I'm going to disagree in one assessment.
Sure.
If you make 10,000 bets and you hit 60%, you're better off playing the parlays.
Yeah. If you're hitting 60% of two-team parlays,
57% over it, over that many bets. Because the advantage of a two-team parlay compared to any other parlay is the juice. The house doesn't, the takeouts, you're still laying -110 on a two-team parlay, which you're not when it comes to a 3-team, 4-team, 5-team, 6-team, but a two-teamer that pays 13-5. And I'm with you very much. I always look for correlations in my two-teamers. I like side and total bets together for a two-teamer. There are arguments to be made for making more two-team parlays and fewer straight bets, but they involve more volatility. And most bettors that I know, while they accept the volatility, you'd rather have more stability with your bankroll where it's not choo, 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 choo. And the more parlays you bet, the more scores you're going to hit, but the more losing streaks you're going to have. So that said, it's a good question. And if you're betting parlays and betting them regularly, two-teamers make a whole lot more sense from a expected value standpoint than the longer shot parlays.
Okay, Teddy. Well, guys, we'll go a couple more minutes here. We got Teddy Covers. I'm Drew Martin. Where it's the opening line report each and every Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. If you're liking the content, please smash the like button. And if you're watching on replay, feel free to drop a comment below. And any questions, we'll answer them on next week's opening line report as well in the comments section. But feel free to throw out anything else here in the chat box. We'll go a couple more minutes here, guys. Next question from Lungowick. J.J. Watt to Arizona moves the odds, question mark here, Teddy?
He would move the. I mean, Arizona might be a sexy team next year, and I think that Watt, if to Arizona, would attract more attention than your average team. So I do think he would move the odds. Not a ton though,
okay,
but some. And if you get the some, he would. It's one of those names that has an outsized influence. J.J. Watt's a player that people know. He's a guy that does national commercials. But I mean that's what it takes for someone to know. Is that when Watt, certainly the success that he's had in Houston is someone that people he's going to move the needle more than most.
Teddy, we got next question here to do with the Chicago Bears. Hayden asking if Deshaun or Russell Wilson went to Chicago, what could they become? Being plus 66 to 1 now. I'm seeing them 50 to 1, but either way, I'm guessing either of those two teams would be a big move for the Bears.
Yes, and of course, what you just said and what Hayden just said, they're both true. Okay, right now you can find the Bears at 50 to 1. You can probably find them at 40 to 1. Maybe you can find them at 30 to 1. If you shop around, you can find them at 66 to 1. People say, oh, you always say shop around, get more outs. In every one of these states with legalized, regulated sports betting, all right, you put one app on your phone. No, you put all the apps on your phone. Okay. You have $1,000 to bet. You have $100 to bet. You make 5 $20 deposits into 5 different books. And that's how you get 66 to 1 instead of 50 to 1 instead of 40 to 1. I mean, the ability to shop for lines, there's no greater edge that you have. And especially in the future market, especially, there's no correlation for one but the next. Each book is going to cater to their own audience, and a bunch of people went into this book and bet the Bears. They're only going to be 40 to 1 there. And if nobody went into this other book and bet the Bears, they're going to be 66 to 1 there. Now, to answer the question, hell yes. If Chicago gets Deshaun or Russell, that number is going to drop like a rock. It'll be half. It'll be, I think, even less than half. I think it'll be, the Bears are a team we talked about at the top where there's the pieces in place, and they're one team that could bring in a big quarterback that would move the needle significantly in the betting markets. So there's dumber long shots in the Bears right now. There are. I wouldn't, at 66 to 1. But you're betting on the come. If they don't get the Bears, if the Bears don't get Wilson or Watson, it'll be, you're betting on the Bucs last year without Brady. A team with work to do.
We got another question here from Ludwig. What about Vegas? Not sure if he's asking about the city during the pandemic or the Las Vegas Raiders, but I'll throw it over to you, Teddy. Anything you want to comment here on Las Vegas?
The Raiders weren't close on the defensive side of the football last year. Yeah. They weren't close. So it's not a deal where one or two players is going to fix that defense. They had a long way. They had a long way to go. So no, of my future bets, I wouldn't look at Vegas as being a particularly live long shot.
Okay. Well, that does it for questions from the chat box here, Teddy. We got one more in the NBA. Not sure if you want to answer it. Any NBA futures to make before the trade deadline on buying some teams with big odds?
So the thing with the NBA and the NBA trade deadline is in football, a team can get hot and win a couple games and they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
In baseball, a team gets hot. You see long shots get hot and make a run. In the NBA, it's all chalk all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. With the 7-game series, with the multiple 7-game series, and without as much of a luck factor as there is in MLB. You just see the chalk win out. I look right now and I say there's maybe 4 or 5 teams that can win the title. The Sixers, the Nets, the Jazz, the Lakers, the Clippers, and that's it. I guess I would look at there's one, maybe I look at Miami. They were there last year and they had such a rough start, but maybe, but I'm not convinced that the Heat would be able to get past the elites this year. But I guess Miami is the one team that would stand out to me in that regard that you might want to look at now.
Okay, good stuff here, Teddy. Guys, this is the opening line report, 10 a.m. Pacific, each and every Monday. Come back and join us next week. We're going to be talking a lot of conference championship weeks. Hit the chat box as well. And again, guys, if you're watching on replay, feel free to leave a comment below. Any questions, we'll get them next week. Teddy, anything else you want to throw out here before we shut this down?
Just want to say thanks, guys. Again, this is as fun a show as I do. It's quick hitting. I don't have an agenda coming. It's this time of the year. When it comes to the opening line report during season, it's all business. But this time of the year, there's lots of leeway for discussion, and any questions that you have, I'm happy to answer. So thanks so much for your participation. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to hang out with Drew and I, and hopefully we'll see you here again next Monday. Again, 1 p.m. on the East Coast, 10 a.m. here on the left coast with the opening line report.
He's Teddy Covers on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. I'm on Twitter at Drew Martin Betts. Feel free to throw any questions out there at the WagerTalk Twitter, here on YouTube. Anything works, guys. So thanks for joining us. Please smash the like button on your way out. Best of luck with your bets.